The vast expanse of the universe had always seemed indifferent to the struggles of its inhabitants. Stars burned, planets spun, and civilizations rose and fell, unnoticed by the cosmos. Yet, in all its timeless vastness, the universe had never encountered a force quite like humanity, a species born in adversity, shaped by chaos, and tempered by resilience. For millennia, the Galactic Council had maintained a fragile order among the countless intelligent species scattered across the stars. It wasn't perfect, but it worked, mostly. Conflicts were smoothed over with treaties, piracy was an annoyance to be managed, and bureaucracy ensured no one species became too dominant. That is, until humans entered the picture. At first, humanity was dismissed as a curiosity. When Earth's first representatives arrived at the Council, they were welcomed with polite condescension. Ah, another species discovering the joys of spaceflight, one ambassador had said, their translucent wings shimmering under the chamber lights. How quaint. Humans didn't have the advanced technology or millennia of interstellar experience of their peers. They were newcomers, after all, barely beyond their home star system, a mere speck in the galactic tapestry. But beneath their seemingly unassuming demeanor, humans carried a trait that would eventually shake the foundation of the universe itself, their tenacity. It wasn't just their ability to survive, it was their refusal to back down. Where others saw limits, humans saw opportunities. And when they were pushed too far, they didn't just push back, they rewrote the rules. The story truly began with a misunderstanding. The Zentan Empire, proud and ancient, had chosen to approach Earth with the same methods they'd used for centuries to subjugate less advanced species. Their ships descended into Earth's orbit in an imposing formation, an array of shining vessels meant to intimidate. They broadcast a message on all frequencies, declaring their arrival and offering Earth the honor of joining the Empire in exchange for tribute. But humans didn't see it as an honor. They saw it as an invasion. Within minutes, Earth's defense networks came online. The response wasn't the panicked scrambling the Zentan had expected. Instead, it was calculated, precise, and swift. Satellites realigned, encrypted signals buzzed across the globe, and, before the Zentan envoy could finish his second speech, human fighter jets streaked through the sky, taking up defensive positions. The Zentan, used to quick surrenders, were caught off guard. A nervous captain, misinterpreting a routine scan as a hostile action, fired a warning shot at a human orbital station. That single shot changed everything. The humans didn't retaliate with overwhelming firepower. They didn't declare war. Instead, they disabled the Zentan ships with surgical precision, targeting propulsion systems and communication arrays while leaving the crews unharmed. It was a message, not of submission, but of capability. "Return to your empire," the human envoy had said, voice calm yet firm, "and tell them we're not interested in joining." Word of the encounter spread quickly through the galaxy. Most species laughed. The idea that humans, a primitive race with barely a foothold in space, had bested a Zentan fleet was absurd. The Zentan, humiliated but unwilling to admit defeat, downplayed the incident, calling it a minor setback. But beneath the laughter and dismissive remarks, unease began to grow. The unease turned to fear when the Crimson Nebula Syndicate made their move. For decades, the pirate faction had terrorized colonies on the galactic fringe, raiding settlements and disappearing into the void. When they attacked a newly established human colony, they expected the same result, a quick plunder and an easy escape. Instead, they encountered something they hadn't prepared for: fury. The humans didn't just defend their colony, they launched a counteroffensive so relentless it sent shockwaves across the galaxy. Pirate bases were dismantled one by one, not with brute force but with strategies that defied conventional understanding. Human ships moved unpredictably, exploiting weaknesses in pirate defenses that no one else had even noticed. They turned the pirates' own tactics against them, sowing chaos and confusion. Within weeks, the Crimson Nebula Syndicate, once a powerful force feared by all, was reduced to scattered remnants, hiding in the shadows. The Galactic Council convened in an emergency session to discuss the human problem. Ambassadors argued and postured, some calling for sanctions, others urging caution. In the midst of the chaos, one voice stood out: Commander Crixus of the Centurion Military Intelligence. A seasoned tactician known for his sharp mind and unflinching honesty, Crixus had been studying humanity since their first arrival. "They're not a problem," he said, his scaled form glinting under the chamber lights. His words were met with skepticism. Humanity, after all, lacked the technological advancements of older species. They didn't have quantum shielding or neural interfacing or centuries of interstellar warfare experience. How could they be a threat? But Crixus knew better. He had seen the footage of their battles, analyzed their tactics, and, most importantly, spoken with them. Humans didn't think like other species. They didn't rely solely on technology or tradition. They'd adapted. They innovated. And when pushed to the brink, they fought with a determination that bordered on madness. "They don't fight because they love war," Crixus continued. "They fight because they love peace, and when you threaten what they care about, they'll do whatever it takes to protect it." The council dismissed his warnings, confident that humanity could be contained. After all, they were just one species among many. What could they possibly do against the combined might of the galaxy? The answer came sooner than anyone expected. When the council failed to act against a rising wave of pirate attacks, humanity took matters into their own hands. Invoking an obscure clause in the Galactic Charter, they launched a coordinated campaign against the pirate factions, targeting their strongholds with an efficiency that left even seasoned generals in awe. But it wasn't the destruction that terrified the council, it was the precision. Every move was calculated, every strike deliberate. Humanity wasn't just fighting back, they were sending a message. By the time the council realized the extent of humanity's capabilities, it was too late. The galaxy was no longer a place of comfortable order and predictable diplomacy. It had become a stage for something new, something unpredictable. And as Commander Crixus watched humanity's fleets move across the stars, he couldn't help but feel a chill run down his spine. They hadn't even seen the worst of it yet. Because the universe didn't know fear. Not until humans lost their temper. The silence of space was deceptive. From the bridge of the Asterisk, Aegis Dawn Asterisk, one of humanity's newest interstellar cruisers, Captain Elena Vasquez gazed at the star-studded void with an intensity that belied her calm demeanor. The reports on her console told her everything she needed to know. The Zenton Empire was regrouping, and their movements near the border systems were anything but friendly. Elena leaned forward, her fingers lightly tapping the edge of her command chair as she processed the latest intel. "How long until we get confirmation on the fleet's position?" she asked, her voice steady but carrying the weight of command. Lieutenant Adar, her tactical officer, didn't look up from his station. "Should have it within the hour, Captain. Recon drones are running silent, but they're in position." Elena nodded, her dark eyes scanning the bridge. Every crew member was focused, tension palpable in the air. They all knew what was at stake. The Zenton wouldn't take their earlier defeat lying down, and this time they wouldn't underestimate humanity. The Asterisk Aegis Dawn Asterisk was on the front line, tasked with monitoring the situation and preparing for what might come next. But something didn't sit right with Elena. The Zenton were prideful, yes, but they weren't reckless. Why would they risk open conflict so soon after their embarrassment? And why now, when humanity's capabilities were still being assessed by the galaxy at large? "Commander Hale," Elena called out to her first officer, who stood at a console to her right. "What's your take on this? Why would the Zenton risk pushing into our territory without a clear advantage?" Hale, a veteran of Earth's military forces before joining the interstellar fleet, frowned as he considered her question. "They're testing us," he said finally. "Trying to see how far we'll go to defend ourselves. Maybe they're hoping to provoke a response they can use to justify an all-out assault. Or they're buying time for something bigger," Elena murmured. The thought sent a chill down her spine. If the Zenton were stalling, it meant they had plans in motion that humanity hadn't uncovered yet. Before she could dwell further, the communications officer spoke up. "Captain, we've got an incoming message from Fleet Command. Priority 1. Elena straightened in her chair, on screen. The face of Admiral Sarah Lynn filled the display, her expression grim. "Captain Vasquez, I won't waste time with pleasantries. We've received reports of unusual Zenton activity near the Icarus Nebula. Multiple ships have been spotted entering the region, and they're keeping their movements concealed. The Council claims it's a routine patrol, but we're not buying it." Elena's brow furrowed. The Icarus Nebula was a dangerous, uncharted region of space, difficult to navigate, even with advanced technology. It was an odd place for the Zenton to operate, especially covertly. "What's our role in this, Admiral?" "You're to investigate. We need eyes on the ground, or rather, in the void," Lin replied. "Proceed with caution, but gather as much intel as you can. If the Zenton are planning something, we need to know before it's too late." "Yes, ma'am," Elena said. The screen went dark, and the weight of the mission settled over her like a shroud. The Icarus Nebula was a place of legends, ghost stories told by explorers who claimed to have seen ships vanish without a trace, strange energy readings that defied explanation, and a silence that seemed almost alive. As the Aegis Dawn adjusted course, the crew prepared for the unknown. In the mess hall, there was an unspoken understanding among the officers and enlisted personnel. This mission could change everything. Conversations were hushed, punctuated by nervous laughter as they tried to shake off the unease that clung to them. Ensign Malik, a young navigation officer with a knack for finding humor in even the darkest situations, broke the tension at one table. "You know," he said, leaning forward conspiratorially, "if the Zenton are hiding out in the nebula, maybe they're just scared of getting another taste of what we gave them last time." The others chuckled, but the humor was fleeting. The truth was, no one really knew what they were walking into. The Zenton weren't cowards, and their presence in the nebula raised too many questions. Meanwhile, in her quarters, Elena reviewed the mission data. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something crucial. The Icarus Nebula wasn't just a tactical blind spot. It was a place that defied understanding. Even humanity's most advanced senses struggled to penetrate its dense clouds of ionized gas. It was the perfect hiding place, but for what? A knock at her door pulled her from her thoughts. "Enter," she said. Commander Hale stepped inside, his expression serious. "Captain, I thought you should know. We've picked up some faint signals from the nebula. They're erratic, like nothing I've seen before." "Could it be Zenton?" Elena asked. "Possibly," Hale admitted. "But if it is, they're using tech far beyond anything we've encountered from them. It's strange." Elena stood, pacing the small room. "Strange how?" "The signals aren't just erratic. They're layered," Hale explained. "It's like there's more than one transmission happening at once, but they're overlapping in a way that doesn't make sense. It's almost deliberate." Elena's mind raced. If the Zenton had developed new technology, it could explain their sudden confidence. But there was another possibility, one that sent a shiver through her. What if the Zenton weren't alone in the nebula? What if they'd found something or someone else? As the Aegis Dawn approached the edge of the nebula, the ship's sensors began to falter, the data feeds becoming distorted by the intense electromagnetic interference. The bridge crew worked tirelessly to adjust the systems, but the closer they got, the harder it became to maintain control. "Captain," Lieutenant Adar called out, his voice tense. "We're picking up a heat signature, multiple signatures actually. They're faint, but they're moving." Elena's pulse quickened. "Can you identify them?" "Negative. The interference is too strong," Adar replied. "But they're heading deeper into the nebula." Elena's jaw tightened. Whatever was out there, they were walking into its domain. "Maintain our course," she ordered. "Let's see if we can get a closer look." The ship plunged into the swirling clouds of the Icarus Nebula, its hull glowing faintly as it brushed against charged particles. The viewports revealed an otherworldly spectacle, vivid colors swirling like a living aurora, beautiful and unsettling in equal measure. But beauty wasn't what held Elena's attention. It was the faint shadow on the edge of their sensor grid, a shape that seemed to move with purpose. She stared at the distorted image, a sense of foreboding washing over her. "Captain," Adar said quietly, "whatever's out there, it knows we're here." The Aegis Dawn crept deeper into the nebula, the ship's thrusters humming softly, as if reluctant to disturb the eerie stillness surrounding them. Captain Elena Vasquez watched the viewports, transfixed by the swirling lights and shadows that seemed almost alive. Despite the beauty, the tension on the bridge was suffocating. Every officer knew they were plunging into the unknown, and unknowns in space rarely meant safety. Lieutenant Adar continued monitoring the faint heat signatures, his hands moving quickly over the console as he adjusted for the interference. Captain, he said finally, those objects are maintaining a precise formation. Whatever they are, they're organized. Elena leaned forward, her gaze narrowing. And they're moving deeper into the nebula. Yes, ma'am, Adar replied, almost as if they're guiding us somewhere. The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Guiding? It was a chilling thought. If the Zenton were deliberately drawing them into a trap, it would explain the formation. But Elena couldn't shake the nagging feeling that this was something else, something far stranger than a simple military maneuver. Commander Hale, any luck with deciphering those layered transmissions? She asked. Hale shook his head, frustration flickering across his face. No, Captain. It's like trying to untangle a dozen conversations happening simultaneously in different languages. But there's a rhythm to it, almost like— He paused, searching for the right words. Like a song. A song? Elena repeated, frowning. Not literally, but the pattern feels deliberate. Hale explained. It's not random noise, Captain. Someone, or something, is trying to communicate. Elena's stomach tightened. Communication. The word carried 1,000 implications, each one more unsettling than the last. If this wasn't the Zenton, then what were they dealing with? She glanced at the swirling nebula outside, its vivid colors now seeming more ominous than beautiful. Before she could respond, the ship's proximity alarms blared. Adar's voice rose in alarm. Captain, we've got movement, closing fast. The bridge erupted into action as the crew scrambled to pinpoint the source of the threat. Elena's eyes darted to the main display, where a ghostly shape flickered on the edge of their sensor grid. It was massive, dwarfing even the asterisk Aegis Dawn asterisk, and its outline seemed to shift as if it were cloaked in some kind of advanced camouflage. Shields up, Elena barked. All stations, prepare for evasive maneuvers. The ship trembled as the shields activated, a faint hum vibrating through the deck. The massive shadow loomed closer, its presence an oppressive weight pressing against the crew's nerves. Then, without warning, the lights on the bridge flickered. The consoles buzzed with static, and the hum of the engines faltered. Elena's heart skipped a beat. Whatever was out there wasn't just big, it was powerful. Report, she demanded. Systems are fluctuating, Hale said, his voice tight. Something's interfering with our power grid. It's not coming from the nebula, it's localized, external. A sudden low-frequency rumble echoed through the ship, resonating deep in their chests. It wasn't a sound so much as a sensation, a vibration that seemed to carry an unspoken warning. The bridge fell silent, the crew frozen in place as the rumble grew louder, more insistent. And then it stopped. For a moment, there was nothing, just the faint hiss of static and the distant hum of the nebula. Then Adar spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. Captain, the shadow, it's gone. Elena's eyes snapped to the display. He was right. The massive shape that had loomed so menacingly was gone, vanished without a trace. The sensors showed nothing but the swirling chaos of the nebula. Scan the area, Elena ordered, her voice steady despite the pounding of her heart. I want to know where it went. I'm trying, Adar said, his fingers flying over the controls. But the interference. Before he could finish, the ship shuddered violently, throwing the crew against their restraints. A cascade of warning lights erupted across the consoles as the bridge descended into chaos. Impact on the starboard hull. Hale shouted, No breaches, but we've got damage to the shield array. Elena's mind raced. They were under attack, but from what? The sensors were blind, and whatever had hit them was moving too fast to track. She gripped the armrests of her chair, forcing herself to think clearly. Helm, take us deeper into the nebula, she ordered. Maybe we can lose them in the interference. The asterisk Aegis Dawn asterisk lurched forward, its engines straining as it pushed through the dense ionized clouds. The swirling colors outside intensified, casting strange shadows across the bridge. The crew worked frantically, their movements a blur of controlled panic. As the ship plunged deeper into the nebula, the vibrations returned. This time, they were rhythmic, pulsing through the hull like the beating of an enormous heart. The layered transmissions Hale had mentioned earlier suddenly spiked in intensity, flooding the communication channels with a cacophony of overlapping voices. Captain, I'm getting something, Hale said, his voice strained. It's not Zenton, it's a language. I think it's a warning. A warning for what? Elena asked, her throat dry. Hale hesitated, his eyes fixed on the garbled display in front of him. I don't know, but... A sudden, blinding light filled the bridge, cutting him off mid-sentence. It wasn't coming from the nebula or the ship's systems. It was external, impossibly bright, yet somehow not overwhelming. The light seemed to pulse in time with the vibrations, each flash carrying a strange, almost hypnotic rhythm,